It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
When we made our McDonald's Spicy Chicken McNuggets, you were praise hands emoji. Then we ran out, and you were streaming tears emoji. Now they're back, so you can be grinning face with sweat emoji. Order ahead on the McDonald's app.
And get Money Mouth Face emoji with 2 orders of crispy, irresistible 10-piece McNuggets, spicy or classic, for just $6. Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
We did it. It's the last Waiver-Wire Monday of the NHL fantasy hockey season, and that's why you're tuned and tapped into your daily source. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and a jam-packed Monday episode covers everything around the world of the NHL and all of our top waiver-wire targets for our final week.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The dynamic duo is whole once again. We're back in the booth for the Monday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I'm rejoined by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Steele, first of all, I missed you. Welcome back. Good to have you back because
Thank you.
There are no shortage of topics to get to today. It's going to have to be, we try and do 30 minutes, Monday through Friday, making sure you guys get everything you need that's impacting your fantasy squad, including bets and everything else in 30 minutes. Today is going to be tricky, but here we go. Mikko Rantanen. This could be a concern for the Colorado Avalanche. He's in concussion protocol. He got his bell rung by Matthias Ekholm. We'll talk about that off the jump. We got to update this playoff picture. The weekend was wild. It was intense, and Steele and I have you covered. We're going to update that quick. I talked about it at the end of last week, but it deserves a discussion again. Sidney Crosby, the Pittsburgh Penguins, knocking on the doorstep. The last waiver wire Monday of the season. We are here all throughout the playoffs, but this is the last week. I know our league Steele is in the championship week. Shout out to everyone out there. If you're there, Monday's bets, only 2 games. Whoo, deep breath, Steele. Over to you. Mikko Rantanen, though, this is an elite fantasy piece. He's important to this Colorado Avalanche team, one who's also knocking on the doorstep for another cup run. What's your take on this? What are you seeing, and what do you think this means for the Colorado Avalanche, most importantly?
Yeah, it did not look good for Mikko Rantanen. He was wobbly. He was out of it, trying to get up from that hit from Matthias Ekholm. Absolutely rung his bell, like you said. And he's out for the time being under concussion protocol. He's out of the lineup against the Dallas Stars on Sunday, and I expect him to be out of the lineup against the Minnesota Wild on Tuesday. They don't really have to rush back into anything with Mikko Rantanen at this point in the season. They've got 5 games left. They're second right now in the Central Division. I know they're trying to hold on to that home ice advantage against probably the Winnipeg Jets.
Right.
But again, it's more for the benefit of Mikko Rantanen's health at this point. The last 3 games of their schedule is going to be very tough, but hopefully he's back on April 13th against those Winnipeg Jets, which would give him at least a week to relax and regroup and get back to fully healthy and not rush anything back. I know if any GMs out there, if he's on your team and you're heading into the championship right now in the final week, that's a huge loss for you. But, for the time being, there's not really much you can do. You might want to throw him on the IR, obviously. But, I mean, we're at the end of the season right here. There's not much you can do with a play like this, and especially with a caliber player of Mikko Rantanen. Colorado's got to take his time to make sure he's fully healthy.
Number one, Arturi Lekkonen's going to be up on that top line. So if you are still making moves out there, don't even need to break that down at the waiver wire segment because that just makes sense. He's slotting in up there on that top line next to McKinnon. Take a look at him if he's out there. Also, you talked about offensive production for Rantanen. About 299 points over the last 3 seasons combined, Steele. Not too bad. 100, you know me in the numbers, but that sounds like 100 triple-digit point pace every single season. And that's why whenever injuries happen to these players, we have to talk about it. You also mentioned the key point of the season for fantasy GMs. And sometimes you just get unlucky. And if you are one of those cats who are in the finals right now and you were leaning on Rantanen, that's just one that's a tough blow. You're going to have to do your best, but we had to highlight it. Lekkonen immediately becomes that target. Now, Steele, you also alluded to that playoff race, and let's get right to it because there's a lot of things to talk about here. Stanley Cup playoff clinching scenarios now are going to be important. Scoreboard watching. So many teams basically know that they're in there. However, this wild card race in the East, and this is where I want to talk about before we go out west quickly. The Red Wings won on Sunday. They're now holding down that second spot. We're going to talk about Sid as well. They're 1 point up on the Penguins. The Philadelphia Flyers lose again, 2-5-3. They are now 83 points, tied with the Penguins. What do you think about the chances of these teams making any kind of noise, regardless of who gets in? Because this is what I said last week without you, and I need your take. In the East anyway, and we'll get to the West. In the East, whoever gets in there in that final wild card spot, I'm not going to talk about Tampa because I think it's pretty clear they're going to take that top wild card spot, if not potentially higher. Detroit, Pittsburgh, Washington, and the New York Islanders. I don't see it for any of those teams in the first round. I say whoever gets in gets absolutely demolished by either the Rangers or the Bruins, but that's just my take. What do you think about that? And who would you have to pick if you're going to say grabs that last spot?
Well, here's the thing, too. It's not even just the last spot in the wild card position. It's the last spot in the Metropolitan position as well.
Wait,
I mean,
I
sent out a tweet the other day, and this is just ridiculous. I was looking at the difference in points between second and third in each division, and it was like It was 4 points between second and third in the Central, 5 points in the Pacific, 6 points in the Atlantic. It's 20 points in the Metropolitan is the difference between Carolina and the New York Islanders at the time I sent that tweet out. But I mean, the Detroit Red Wings are the only team in the Atlantic Division that have a possibility of making the playoffs. There are 4 teams in the Metro that are battling for either third or that second wild card spot.
Yeah.
I mean, the way Pittsburgh is playing right now, and we're going to talk about Sidney Crosby and a few other players, and I'm alluding to waiver wire targets as well, but the way Pittsburgh is playing right now is really remarkable, and Sidney Crosby deserves so much credit for what he's doing right now. I don't know whether, there's a question that can be thrown out there. Is Kyle Dubas a genius, or is he an absolute villain somehow because of what he's sort of done with this team since he's arrived in Pittsburgh? I mean, it's, again, truly remarkable if they make the playoffs with what Kyle Dubas has done and what Sidney Crosby is doing right now for this team. But if I had to pick one, I'm still going with the team that I've said all season long. I'm going with the New York Islanders. They've won 4 in a row. They're 6-4-0 right now in their last 10. I believe they have a team that can upset some of the big dogs in the Eastern Conference, the Carolina Hurricanes, the New York Rangers. It's a long shot, but I believe they have the best team to make a little bit of a statement and not get pushed over so much in the first round, and maybe a big upset. But there's 2 spots available. I'm going with the New York Islanders to finish in that 3rd spot in the Metro, and I could really see at this point the Pittsburgh Penguins squeaking in there.
Well, let's talk about them in 1 minute, because I'll say this because you'll agree with me. I had the Islanders because I was kind of, when you're not here and I'm just throwing things at the board on these solo episodes, which I hope you guys liked last week. However, I throw a lot out there and you aren't there to check my opinion. And I said the New York Islanders at the time. If I had to pick one last week, I went with the team that has by and large, by far, the best goaltender.
Yeah.
And, look, you can nitpick about their weaknesses. The New York Islanders are probably the most responsible defensive team as well. So if you're talking about the ability to get in and maybe make some noise in terms of giving a team a hard time in the first round, that's also why I was backing the Islanders. Anyhow, let's go out west very quickly. We'll come back from the break. We'll talk about Pens, Sid, waiver wire, and get to Monday's bets to wrap up the show. But just very quickly, the Pacific is very tight. 3 points. The Oilers. The other day I was saying it looked like it's the Canucks. Then the Oilers reel off 2 wins. What are you seeing out west, specifically in the Pacific? Because if the Vancouver Canucks, as it stands right now, they would get the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm going to say that's a very tough matchup for this Vancouver Canucks team. And I saw some Vancouver Canucks podcasters out there calling on the Vegas Golden Knights. I wouldn't be so confident bringing in the reigning champs. I don't know how you feel about that, Steele.
No, I wouldn't. And I even said this. I think with Vancouver just heading into the postseason, I could very likely see an upset from either the Vegas Golden Knights, or I don't even know if that would be an upset, but even from the Nashville Predators if they end up playing them instead. And I haven't been watching a lot of the Vancouver Canucks games recently.
Right.
I don't
Me neither.
believe Thatcher Demko is back yet from his injury. So that scares me as well going into the postseason. They have 5 games left. Thatcher Demko's been out for 3 weeks now, maybe close to 4 weeks.
I know he's skating, but he's been skating on his own. He hasn't even been with the team from my understanding. So he's not ready yet.
That scares me going into the postseason, not having Thatcher Demko fully ready at this point. And again, there's 5 games left. Maybe he gets a game or 2 in there before the postseason starts. But that worries me going up, whether it's against the Vegas Golden Knights or Nashville Predators, because UC Saros is no slouch himself.
Hey, Aiden Hill also been dealing with injuries all year long. But if we know anything about the Vegas Golden Knights, a carousel of goaltenders doesn't really impact their ability to bring home a Stanley Cup. We're going to bring home the rest of this episode right after the break. Sid, Waiver-Wire, bets. Giddy up, my friends. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. The NHL season is winding down, but you can still be making your loot on the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper, our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially, of course, daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick whether studs like McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, or even more in a given game. Use promo code Locked On NHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
What's up, guys? Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils here, and let me tell you about Discover Credit Customer Service. Looking for an assist with your credit card but can't get a hold of anyone? Luckily, with 24/7 US-based live customer service from Discover, everyone has the option to talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Yep, you heard that right. You can talk to a real human in customer service anytime. Sounds like a real game changer if you ask me. Make the right call and get the service you deserve with Discover. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Are you watching on Fox Sports or ESPN? Do you have to turn down your volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest and top stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We are going to get to the last week of this season doing waiver wire targets. We'll get to big time bets, 2 games on the schedule. But first, I know you talked about Sidney Crosby, on the solo episodes. Again, appreciate you doing the solo episodes without me.
Got you.
But I want to talk about Sidney Crosby and this Pittsburgh team like we just talked about in the first
I'll talk
segment.
about Sid to the cows come home, pal. You know I'm good with this topic.
Oh, I know you are. And it's truly shocking and it's truly amazing that Sid the Kid can still surprise me at 36 years old. He is unbelievable. The innovation from the Pittsburgh Penguins captain is just, it's incredible to watch. Three straight seasons of 84-plus points, a possibility of back-to-back 90-point seasons, 261 shots, 90 hits, 35 blocks. He's one of those guys that, again, he kind of slid down the draft board during fantasy draft season, and he's still such a good player, such a top elite player, and he's still a second-round pick, whether he's beginning at middle or end, he's a second-round pick going into 37 years old. And it's incredible that he's dragged this team up the hill on his back into or fighting for a playoff spot. And like we talked about, 1 point back of the Red Wings right now because they won their game over the weekend against the Sabres, 2 points back from the New York Islanders of third in the Metropolitan. I think the most shocking thing, and we're going to have to discuss this in the offseason with a lot of top fives, or just, when we go through all the different positionings here, the most shocking thing to me is they've done this without Tristan Jarry. He hasn't played since March 26th, and I'm looking at Tristan Jarry in a whole different light right now after what I've seen from him the last 10 starts. Again, hasn't played since March 24th. His last 10 games, he's gone 2-6-1 with an 870 save percentage and a 4.44 goals against average. So that's why I was alluding to my waiver wire target. I think we can all know where I'm going with that right now with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But Sidney Crosby, what he's been able to do, losing Jake Gensel at the trade deadline, just going on an absolute heater right now in the offensive zone. He is truly, again, just remarkable player.
I've talked about Sidney Crosby perhaps more than any other player, but for proper reasons. And to try and come up with a bit of a narrative that maybe you haven't heard from me is, and actually you have last week briefly when I mentioned it, is you said it, innovative. He had to change his approach. I don't know if you remember maybe there was season 4, 5, 6. He was getting conkies. He was getting serious injuries. He was playing not reckless, but he was kind of taking it. He was playing the young man's game when he's far too good. He gets too much attention. He gets too beat up. And instead of losing his longevity and ability to have 20-year career, which he's clearly going to maybe even play more, who knows, he will play more. Anyway,
he will.
he changed his style. He's such a smart player, and that's what I wanted to talk about. You can talk about stats. Sid is one of the best players to ever do it, but he might be the smartest player to ever play. He's cerebral. His warm-up approach, Steele. Everything about him down to his personal life. Have you ever heard a blip from Sidney Crosby?
Calculated. So smart.
He's a ninja. He moves in silence, and he gets it done. Speaking of which, 33 points in 27 games, and my last point. He has basically averaged the same exact, look at his ice time numbers over his whole career. That's how you know I got too much time on my hands. He has basically averaged between 19 and a half and 21 and a half minutes, down to the minute, for his entire career, including this year, where he is right at 20 minutes 05 in ice time per night. He's carrying the team. And I think, Steele, this is going to be a very polarizing topic for me. And that's what I alluded to last week. You could get so much value for Sidney Crosby right now in the keeper dynasty realm just because of his current heater. Next year is going to be a big question mark for these Penguins. So we've talked enough about that. Hit me with your waiver wire. Where are you looking? Because I know you agree with me up and down on Sid. How can you not?
Yeah, you can't deny the incredible career that he's had. One of the best to ever do it. And I'm going to remain on the Pittsburgh Penguins for this waiver wire targets. I alluded to it. Alex Nedeljkovic rostered at 23% right now, 16-6-6 on the season. He's 7-0-2 in the last 10 games that he's played because he relieved Tristan Jarry from one of those. So he's 7-0-2, hasn't lost in his last 10, with a 2.61 goals against average and a 909 save percentage. So hasn't been the best, but those are still pretty solid numbers, especially in the record department, 7-0-2. Pittsburgh is 6-2-2 in their last 10 games right now. They have 3 games this week. A little bit of a tough schedule again as they battle for this one of the positions at a playoff spot. 3 games this week. Yeah, we're gonna get to it with big time bets, but they take the Toronto Maple Leafs on in Toronto on Monday night. Detroit Red Wings, again, another team fighting for an Eastern Conference playoff spot, and the Boston Bruins. So 3 big matchups for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I would expect Alex Nedeljkovic, unless some other circumstance comes into play and he has a really poor start, I expect him to get all 3 starts.
It's interesting because there were so many moves by Kyle Dubas that you could almost not blame people for forgetting about Alex Nedeljkovic being one of them. And actually one of them that I think people were kind of critical on, given that Nedeljkovic hadn't exactly been showing any kind of signs of consistency. So maybe that's just a little bit of those tidbits that people are throwing a lot of hate at Dubas. And if they do get in there, obviously it's Sid, but that's one of those ones that maybe you got to give Dubas a wee bit of credit. We're not going to do that, however. Here's a target that I have for you, Steele. And you and I have spoken about this player, but 30 goal scorers don't exactly come around all the time. And Trevor Moore is starting to look like he should be a 30 goal scorer every single year. And as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, this is one of those ones that, there's a lot of players out there that you could say you still want to, as a part of your team. I really wish Trevor Moore was anchoring that bottom six in Toronto to balance out the offense. 30 goals, 24 assists, 54 points, career high in both goals and points. Yeah, the peripherals sometimes leave a little bit to be desired, but 84 hits and 56 block shots as well. I don't hate it. Not bad at all. The LA Kings also have one of the easiest schedules down the stretch, and not just this week. However, this week they got the Ducks twice and the Flames. Trevor Moore, 65% ESPN, 59 Yahoo, and 66 on Fantrax. It's a pretty high ownership rate. If he's out there, you need a forward. Immediately, Trevor Moore is at the top of my list. He's also on a heater right now, feeling it.
Love talking about Trevor Moore. We talk about that third line so often from the LA Kings. And
now basically their second line. But
couldn't be happier, honestly, with him being in LA, because he just wasn't getting the opportunity. Obviously, I would love for him to be in Toronto, but it's just such a hard market to get your opportunity if you're not, one of the elite players like we've seen in the top 5 that they have right now. Speaking of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that comes to my second waiver wire target, and then we'll get to break and to big time bets. Max Domi is my second waiver wire target for this week, 26% rostered. There are only 4 or 5 teams that have 4 games this week, Toronto being one of them. And I really like him being on that top line with Austin Matthews and Tyler Bertuzzi right now. He's really started to figure out Matthews' tendencies, really figured out where he's going to be on the ice and where he should be to support Matthews, for these plays. He's making those plays with his line mates, with Matthews and Bertuzzi now. He's got 2 points in his last 3 games, 9 shots, and really good week for Toronto as well. Again, like we said, they take on the Pittsburgh Penguins on Monday. They take on the New Jersey Devils twice this week and the Detroit Red Wings. So very advantageous schedule for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to get back after break, talk about big time bets, and finish up with our waiver wire targets. But first, this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Whether you're looking to buy or sell with a RE/MAX agent, they'll use their years of experience to help you plan for now and later. From when this...
Welcome to your new home, baby girl.
...turns into this.
Yeah, we're gonna need a bigger home.
And this...
Oh, I hate this place.
...turns into this.
I'm really gonna miss this place.
From tiny steps to your next big move. When you're ready to make a change, visit RE/MAX.com or download the RE/MAX app to find the right agent. The right agent can lead the way. Each office independently owned and operated.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 5 games or less remaining in the NHL schedule, and then we're going to get hot and heavy into the postseason, and breaking down everything you could imagine for the NHL playoffs. But Flip, over to you, second waiver wire target for this upcoming week.
I'm going to keep these ones as short and sweet as possible, because I think I would actually place a lot more emphasis if you are like within striking, you're in your finals and these weeks matter, or you're playing for second or third. I would lean towards the ease of schedule and just having guys out there more often than a high quality of talent. However, Connor Garland is an intriguing little sneaky one for me, and I wanted to try and highlight players that were more obvious, but then also give options for some deeper leagues. And you're going to have to get nitty gritty. But Connor Garland, I know 40 points in 77 games might not jump off the page. He's been shooting the puck quite a bit. He's got 4 points in his last 5 games. And when it comes to those deeper league steal, he is probably out there. 10% on ESPN, 33 on Fantrax, and 26 on Yahoo. Coyotes and Oilers, that's the other issue, only 2 games, and that's why I had to mention that. But both of those teams allow a lot of goals, and I know Edmonton's won a ton of games, but in terms of liking Vancouver's chances, putting up points, why not Connor Garland? And just to round it out, because I'll finish this quickly, We've talked about both these players. Gustav Nyquist, 4 games for the Preds this week, including 3, but they have the Hawks and the Blue Jackets and the Jets. Gustav Nyquist is out there. And I got to wrap up with one of the favorite players that I've talked about probably all year long, and Wyatt Johnson. No, it's not Thomas Harley.
I thought you were going Thomas Harley for sure.
And by the way, take a look at my boy Seth Jarvis right now, and thank you very much. 52% for Wyatt Johnson on ESPN, 69 on Yahoo, so again, higher. So I tried to go all over the map here, but they got the Kraken, Sabres, and Jets. Dallas, I said it last week without you. If I had to predict the Cup final right now, Steele, and I don't know, you don't have to give me with your take on this because we're going to do all the previews. I talked up Dallas quite a bit. I'd go Dallas and Carolina. That would be my matchup. Wow. I know it's bold, it's spicy, but the Dallas Stars are hot. Wyatt Johnson is still putting up points. I like him. I like the schedule. So those are my 4 waiver wire targets for the week. I'm all over the map.
Love the waiver wire. Hey, I love all over the map. I love the waiver wire targets. Yep. One final player for myself before big time bets. You talked about the Arizona Coyotes. You talked about quantity over the quality of players right now.
Yeah, I think it's an important one.
Logan Cooley right now for the Arizona Coyotes is heating up. He's had a very quiet 40-point rookie season. He is 4th amongst all rookies this year, right behind Brock Faber, Luke Hughes, and of course Connor Bedard. 40-point season for Logan Cooley. He's really started to pick up his play over the last month. He's got 10 points in his last 10 games, 21 shots, 4 hits. It is a tough schedule, but 4 games for the Arizona Coyotes: Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. So 4 games on the schedule,
mixed
but
bag.
Very, very tough schedule with Vancouver, Edmonton, and then, Seattle, Calgary. But again, still 4 games on the schedule. Final week of if you're in the championship, you need some help in the offensive department. Give Logan Cooley a look because he's feeling himself. 10 points in his last 10.
I like that you described it as sneaky good because I think there was some of those streaks there. He just went absolutely ghost.
Yeah.
But you can't help but feel that that's one of those players, Steele, that might actually just erupt next season. He clearly can play at the NHL level. I'm so excited to talk about all the offseason stuff that you and I do. But the playoffs are looming, and this is your source, guys. The fantasy work doesn't sleep. You're in playoff pools, we got you. You're looking ahead to next season, we got you. You want to make bets all playoff season long, we got you. Make sure you keep it tapped. Steele, hit me with some bets, pal. I've been throwing out bets by myself. I've missed you. Where are you at? What games are you looking at? I know it's only 2. You got a same-game parlay? What are you working with over there?
Same game parlay, only 2 games on the schedule. You got the Penguins, Maple Leafs, Golden Knights against the Vancouver Canucks. I've got the same game parlay from the first game of the night, Penguins and Maple Leafs. I'll rattle all 3 off and throw it over to you. 2 player props. First one, Sidney Crosby, anytime goal against the Toronto Maple Leafs. 5 goals in his last 4 games. Again, he is not going to go down without a fight. If he has to do all the playmaking and all the goal scoring, if he has to pass to himself, he's going to do it somehow. Sidney Crosby, anytime goal, first pick. Second pick of the night, of course, Austin Matthews, anytime goal as well. 5 goals in his last 4 games. He's up to 64. We're pushing for him. We're rooting for him. I think he's not going to go down without a fight because he wants to get to 70, which would be an absolutely incredible feat in itself. But 2 player props, Crosby anytime goal, Matthews anytime goal, and the final pick of the night, Penguins plus 1.5 on the puck line versus the Maple Leafs minus 172. I think I would, if I had to, again, it's very close. I believe it was 50-50 when I looked, but I would lean towards the over 6.5 in this matchup. I could see a very high scoring game, but I'm going to go with the Penguins plus 1.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to overtime and the Penguins lose it. But that's what I'm feeling for this matchup because they've won. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now, 6-2-2 in their last 10 games, and they're playing some really good hockey right now. They've had some really close matchups too, and again, Nedeljkovic is 7-0-2 in his last 9. So Penguins plus 1.5 at minus 172.
I personally would lean to the under. That's just me. I'm not going to disagree.
That's why I'm not going with any over or under, just because I don't know. But if I was leaning towards one, it would be the over.
Love it. First pick of the night. And I had Austin Matthews anytime goal written down here, Steele. But I'm going to go with Austin Matthews anytime assists.
Ooh, okay.
I think as much as the Toronto Maple Leafs and the media are, kind of talking about how the team is going to work to get Matthews to 70, I think Sheldon Keefe is far too smart of a coach. And Austin Matthews is far too smart of a player to let anything get away from the team right now. People love to get at Poppy about how he only cares about the goals. He only cares about his stats, which is funny. Social media like to laugh at it. He is not that. he is a leader, and he's taken his complete game very seriously. We've seen it in his ability to work the defensive zone now. He's in the mix for the Selke. If you don't like my take, read into the numbers and come back to me. So when I look at Austin Matthews and this narrative of they're just going to try and feed him the puck, I actually think that's going to lead him to do the same thing and distribute and set up his team, because what matters right now the most, and it's all he's been saying all year, is wins. So all that preamble, Austin Matthews, anytime assist, he hit triple digits. He still has 36 assists on the year. So everyone's saying, oh, he doesn't pass the puck. He does pass the puck, but he's a shooter first. So stop the hate. Matthews, anytime assist, that's number 1. Number 2 and number 3 come from the same game, Vegas at Vancouver. Like I mentioned, that matchup for Vancouver in terms of Vegas, I don't like it one bit if I'm the Vancouver
preview.
Canucks. So that's just me. So I think you're going to see, as much as the same thing could be said for Vancouver in terms of sending a message. I'm going to say it's the Vegas Golden Knights that send one. 6-3-1 against the Vancouver Canucks in their last 10. They've been playing much better hockey. I believe they're 6-4 or 7-3-1 actually in their last 10. Vegas, money line, and their best player this year, Steele, someone who doesn't get enough credit from me, I know personally. At 5'9", Jonathan Marchessault is having a sensational season of 40-plus goals. And in his career against the Vancouver Canucks, even just earlier this year, Steele, let me bring that one up. They've played 3 games against the Canucks this year, 3 points from Marchessault. Lock of the night, Jonathan Marchessault, anytime point. I also like that with Vegas. You could do one of those super parlays, go those two together along with Matthews, anytime assist. Those are 3 winners, Steele. I just said it. Lock it in.
Well, let's hope for a multi-point game from Austin Matthews, a goal and an assist, so it hits for both of us. I love it. I'm loving the picks there, especially looking at this playoff preview potential matchup against the Vancouver Canucks and Vegas Golden Knights. It's going to be an absolute heck of a night, sure. Monday night, even though there's only 2 games on the schedule. Back to back, make sure you're watching both. Those are the locks of the night. The picks my lock of the night actually is the Austin Matthews anytime goal.
Thank you.
Forgot to mention that, but those are the locks of the night. Those are the picks of the night. 2 games on the schedule for Monday. Thank you again so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And once again, make sure you go check out the Locked On Sports Today's YouTube channel, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. They bring you the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So make sure you go subscribe to the channel and also check it out on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in for this Monday episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. Good luck if you're in the championship final round of your fantasy league. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Go Leafs, go.
Price drop? Time to shop. Get to a Nordstrom Rack store today for first dibs on new markdowns. Now score even more, up to 70% off brands everyone loves at Nordstrom Rack. Denim, dresses, sneakers, tops, and more. Plus, get genius deals on jackets, sweaters, and boots for the whole family. Shop your Nordstrom Rack store today and save up to 70% with new markdowns. But hurry, deals this great won't last.
Whether you're a morning person or a bedtime procrastinator, everyone deserves a mattress that works for their style. And you'll find the best mattress for you at Ashley. The new Temper-Adapt collection at Ashley brings you one-of-a-kind body-conforming technology, making every sleep tailored to be your best. The collection also features cool-to-the-touch covers and motion absorption to help minimize sleep disruptions from partners, pets, or kids. Shop the all-new Temper-Adapt collection at Ashley, in-store or online at ashley.com. Ashley, for the love of home.
Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.